Knowing what camera accessories to take on your holiday can be very stressful.
It's too easy to take too much or not enough. You'll either be overwhelmed by the amount of gear you have, or you may miss being able to capture that once-in-a-lifetime experience because you left a vital piece of equipment at home.
I believe I've solved this problem. Quick bit about me, my name is Tristan and I've travelled a lot with the wrong amount of camera gear. First, I'll list out considerations for what camera gear needs to be. It needs to be not distracting from the experience, waterproof or weatherproof, inconspicuous when you want it to be, or be able to hide it easily, allow you to capture multiple types of shots, so that could be drone, establishing shots, vloggy, talking to camera style shots, action shots, that sort of thing. Not too heavy to carry, which for me is a big one. Capture the level of quality that you want or that you're happy with. And it also needs to be easy to use, especially if you're traveling with someone who isn't a camera nerd like me. Getting into what I recommend you take, the first one is a photography camera. What camera this is depends on your enthusiasm and standards of photography. There is no specific camera that I recommend you use. It depends entirely on your budget and your preferences for cameras. I think point and shoots are great for beginners, and if you're a professional with a professional camera, take that if you're comfortable with it. I don't recommend using your phone if you can afford a separate camera. I think phones are better used for their other functions. The camera that I personally take is the Sony a7 IV with a 24 to 70mm lens on it. I will also take a bunch of batteries, the charger, a lens cloth, one of these things, and a camera strap. There are quite a few more cons than there are pros when you take a higher end professional camera setup. However, in my opinion, the amazing quality, the full control of the images that you have, as well as the ability to add different focal lengths to your camera, especially if you've got an optical zoom lens, outweighs all of the cons. The cons that I've noticed, it can be heavy after a full day of carrying it around, even if you have a camera strap, wrist strap, or a Peak Design capture clip. It's difficult to get smooth shots of it unless you have a tripod or a gimbal, which again is just more equipment to take with you. The audio quality captured on this by the inbuilt microphone is terrible. So to get decent quality, you will need an external microphone, which again is even more equipment to bring with you. It can attract a lot of unwanted attention, be that people staring at you whilst you're using it, or potential thieves. You can also be refused entry into some places if you're seen carrying a professional camera. It's awkward to take selfies with, so you'll need to give it to someone else, but if they're not a camera person, then it's difficult or sometimes impossible for them to use and get a decent shot. And lastly, it is not waterproof. In order to take it into the water, you will need to buy a dive case. Those can be quite pricey and also bulky, which can take up valuable space in your luggage. The next camera that I would take is the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 with the attached microphone. I'm not going to go into details about this camera because there are a million reviews on it on YouTube that go far more in depth than I ever could. The pros of this camera is that it is small and it literally fits in your pocket, and it's very light. It's also very inconspicuous, so it's not going to draw a lot of attention when you're out and about filming with it in public. The quality of it is amazing, even in low light. It obviously has a built-in gimbal for nice, stabilized, smooth shots, and it is very easy to use for a non-camera person. My girlfriend has had a lot of fun using this camera out on day trips with the family without any help from me whatsoever.
I like it. It's very easy to use.
There are a couple of small cons with this camera. Firstly, it's not waterproof. I believe it is weatherproof because I've had it out in a light shower for a few minutes and it's been completely fine. And secondly, it has a fixed focal length, which means any zooming you do in camera is actually a digital zoom and therefore cropping the image. The next camera that I would recommend you take on your travels is an action camera. Now I have the GoPro Hero 10 Black. I don't know if they do anything other than black now. It's the GoPro Hero 10. The pros about an action camera such as this: it's waterproof, tough, versatile, inconspicuous, easy to use. It's small, obviously. I haven't had any experience with other action cameras, so any con is specifically related to GoPro. Firstly, it is terrible in low light. The battery life is horrendous. I will get through all of my batteries within half a day. And lastly, it is a fixed focal length, so any zooming you do in camera is just cropping the image. There are 3 neutral points. It can be difficult to get GoPro GoPro $1 million challenge level quality from these cameras. Obviously, photos on it aren't as good as my main camera. However, I did take it as my only camera for a 1-week trip through the Scottish Highlands. I took photos and videos on it, and I'm very happy with those. I even used some of those photos and videos in my portfolio. And lastly, there are lots of mounting options. Now, this is good and bad. Firstly, it's good because there's lots of mounting options. You could put it on your bike handlebar, you can mount it to a surfboard, you can have it POV. There's almost endless possibilities. But it's also a bad thing because you will then have a lot of accessories to take with you, which can take up a lot of space in your bag. The selfie stick is good enough, especially if it's got a little tripod on it as well. So the next camera I would recommend taking, but also it's probably one of the only cameras that I would say of all of them, you could leave this one behind, and that is a drone. I have the DJI Mini 3 Pro. Some of the pros about this camera is that it's very light and small, so easily packable. You can take it anywhere with you. It's not going to weigh you down. The quality on it is fantastic. You get a lot of flying time, especially if you get the extra fly pack and you get these 3 batteries with it. Each one, I think, is like 40 minutes. It is an insane amount of flying time. So lots of opportunity to get shots. There is only one con that I can think of, and it's quite a major one, but isn't specifically related to this drone. And that is every country will have different rules for flying drones. In Morocco, for example, they wouldn't even let you out of the airport with one. They would confiscate it from you. So it's always best to find out the laws of flying drones before you get to each country you're going to. The final piece of gear that I would recommend taking isn't actually a camera. It's a laptop. I have the MacBook Air 2, 8GB, 14-inch, and I also take a Samsung T5 SSD with me. This is literally just to edit some photos in an evening or whenever I'm having a quiet day. I have happily edited some shorts and reels on this thing without stressing it. The pros about this laptop is that it's small and very powerful. The cons/neutral points about this laptop. Firstly, it's obviously not as capable as higher spec laptops, so I wouldn't go editing a full YouTube video on something like this. However, it can sufficiently handle reels and photo editing. The smaller screen can make it difficult to edit, especially if you have photos and videos with lots of detail in them. And lastly, as this is a MacBook, it's all about dongle life, so therefore you will have to take an SD card dongle with you. But it's small and light, so it's not really going to take up a lot of space and weigh you down. Moving on now to things that I recommend you don't take, and these are lessons that I have learned the hard way. The first one is a tripod. Even the small travel tripods can get quite heavy and they can take up a lot of space in your carry-on bag. The second one is a gimbal. Now, unless you are capturing portfolio shots or traveling for work, you most definitely don't need something like this. Not only will these add a lot of weight to your bag and are awkward to pack, but it will make your small compact camera into a very large camera. Lens filters are something else I would recommend not taking, even ND filters. When you're finished getting the shot that you want and you want to take the lens filter off, you're either putting it in your pocket where you risk it getting damaged, or you have to faff around putting it back in this box, and then when you want to use it again, you have to get it back out the box and out of your bag to put it on the lens. They are a lot of extra hassle for not that much gain, in my opinion. And lastly, I recommend to never bother taking lighting. Obviously, I'm not talking about the large setups. I would never recommend something like that, but also the smaller handheld lights. I find them just as inconvenient as lens filters, with one added con, and that is they can draw a lot of unwanted attention. Those are all the cameras and accessories that I take on my travels. If you have any gear recommendations that's different from anything that I've mentioned, please feel free to leave a comment. I'd love to chat about it. And as always, I hope you found this video useful, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.